A German shepherd, moments away from euthanasia, somehow mustered the strength to wrap his paws around his devastated owner in what everyone thought would be their final embrace. The veterinarian stood frozen, tissues in hand, as this powerful display of love unfolded before their eyes. But just when all hope seemed lost, something happened that medical science cannot explain. This story of incredible loyalty and an unexplainable miracle will change how you see the bond between humans and dogs forever. In the small town of Riverdale, Marcus Thornton, a 38-year-old firefighter, lived a quiet life with his 8-year-old German shepherd, Max. Unlike ordinary pets, Max had been there through it all. Marcus's divorce, his mother's passing, and the harrowing nightmares that plagued him after a rescue gone wrong. Their bond transcended typical companionship. Max was the silent guardian who understood Marcus's pain without a single word spoken. Between them, the trouble began on an otherwise perfect spring morning. Max, usually energetic and alert at breakfast time, remained curled in his bed, his eyes lacking their characteristic luster. His once voracious appetite had disappeared completely, his water bowl untouched since the previous evening. When Marcus knelt beside him, Max struggled just to lift his head, his tail offering only the faintest of movements, a shadow of its usual enthusiastic wag. "Come on, buddy," Marcus whispered, his voice cracking slightly as he gently stroked Max's thick fur. "Let's get you to Dr. Collins." The 20-minute drive to Riverdale Veterinary Hospital felt like an eternity. In the passenger seat, Max's breathing grew increasingly labored, his once powerful body seeming smaller somehow against the leather upholstery. Each bump in the road elicited a whimper that pierced Marcus's heart like a knife. Dr. Amanda Collins had known Max since he was a puppy. Her normally cheerful demeanor vanished the moment she saw the German shepherd's condition. After a thorough examination and urgent blood work, she guided Marcus to her office, away from Max, who now lay connected to an IV in the treatment area. "I'm so sorry, Marcus," she began, her eyes conveying what words couldn't fully express. "Max has acute kidney failure. His blood work shows toxin levels that they're not compatible with life. Has he gotten into anything unusual lately? Antifreeze? Certain plants?" Marcus shook his head in disbelief. Just 3 days ago, they'd completed their usual 5-mile hike along the Riverdale trails. How could this be happening so suddenly? "There's more," Dr. Collins continued reluctantly. "The ultrasound revealed multiple tumors throughout his abdomen. They appear aggressive and are likely causing his organs to shut down." The world seemed to stop rotating as Marcus processed her words. "What can we do? Surgery? Dialysis? I'll pay. Anything. Do anything." Dr. Collins placed her hand gently on his trembling forearm. "Marcus, even if we could stabilize him temporarily, the cancer is too widespread. He's in considerable pain now, and it will only get worse. The kindest thing would be to—" "No," Marcus interrupted, a sob catching in his throat. "Not yet. I need time to say goodbye." Outside the window, dark clouds gathered as if the sky itself were mourning what was to come. Dr. Collins agreed to make Max comfortable for a few hours, while Marcus came to terms with the inevitable. She administered pain medication and fluids, but her solemn expression left no room for false hope. Max had 24 hours at most, and each passing moment brought increasing discomfort. Back in the examination room, Marcus sat on the floor beside Max's bed, his calloused hand gently stroking the shepherd's graying muzzle. The bustling sounds of the veterinary hospital seemed distant and unimportant compared to the of Max's labored breathing. 8 years of memories flooded Marcus's mind, the day he'd brought home the awkward, ears-too-big puppy. Max's unwavering presence during countless sleepless nights after the Millfield factory fire. The way he had somehow always known when to place his head in Marcus's lap, when the grief of losing his mother became unbearable. "You've never let me face anything alone," Marcus whispered, tears streaming freely down his weathered face. "And I won't leave you now." Dr. Collins had allowed Marcus to take Max to the hospital's private garden, a small courtyard designed specifically for these heartbreaking moments. Under the shade of a maple tree, Marcus laid out Max's favorite blanket, the warm blue one that normally resided on the foot of his bed. Carefully, he settled Max onto it, wincing at the soft whimper that escaped the shepherd's throat despite the strong pain medication. Marcus's phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from the fire station crew who had heard the news. They were family, too. Max had been the unofficial station mascot for years, accompanying Marcus to every shift. Chief Ramirez texted that everyone wanted to say goodbye, but Marcus couldn't bring himself to respond. These final moments felt too sacred to share, even with those who loved Max nearly as much as he did. As afternoon faded into evening, dark clouds gathered overhead. A gentle rain began to fall, as if nature itself mourned what was to come. Marcus hadn't moved from Max's side, his hand continually stroking the shepherd's fur, recounting stories of their adventures together. "Remember when you found that little girl during the storm, buddy? Everyone said she couldn't have survived the night, but you wouldn't give up searching." His voice broke. "You've saved so many lives. You saved mine too, you know." At the sound of Marcus's cracking voice, something remarkable happened. Despite his weakness, Max lifted his head slightly. His eyes, though clouded with pain, fixed intently on Marcus's face. With tremendous effort that seemed impossible, given his condition, the shepherd shifted his weight, inching closer to his human companion. The overnight staff at Riverdale Veterinary Hospital had never witnessed such dedication. Marcus refused to leave, spending the night on the floor beside Max's bed in the recovery ward. Dr. Collins had made an exception to the usual visiting hours, recognizing the special bond between them. The German shepherd's condition continued to deteriorate despite the IV fluids and pain medication. By morning, Max could barely lift his head, and his breathing had become increasingly shallow and labored. When Dr. Collins arrived for her morning rounds, her expression confirmed what Marcus already knew. It was time. The cancer was aggressively shutting down Max's systems, and his suffering would only intensify with each passing hour. With a heavy heart, Marcus nodded his consent. "Can we use the garden room?" he asked, his voice barely audible. He loves being outdoors. The garden room was a special place at Riverdale Veterinary, a peaceful space with large windows overlooking a small courtyard filled with flowers and a bubbling fountain. It was reserved specifically for these difficult moments, allowing families privacy and dignity during their final goodbyes. 2 veterinary assistants helped carefully transport Max to the garden room, placing him on a soft blanket near the windows where patches of morning sunlight streamed through. Outside, birds flitted between feeders, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of a maple tree, simple pleasures that Max had always paused to observe during their walks. Dr. Collins explained the process gently, ensuring Marcus understood what would happen. First would come a sedative to relax Max, allowing him to drift into a peaceful sleep. Only then would the final medication be administered. "Take all the time you need to say goodbye," she said softly, placing the sedative syringe on a nearby table. "When you're ready, just let me know." Marcus knelt beside his faithful companion, running his fingers through Max's thick fur. The shepherd's eyes, though dulled by pain, remained fixed on Marcus's face, as if memorizing every feature. The same eyes that had watched over him for 8 years, through nightmares, heartbreak, and healing, still held nothing but unconditional love. "You've been the best friend I could have ever asked for," Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't know how to say goodbye to you. I don't know how I'll walk through the front door tonight knowing you won't be there." At these words, something extraordinary happened. With what seemed like impossible effort, Max lifted his head. The movement visibly caused him pain, but determination gleamed in his eyes. Before Marcus could react, the German shepherd shifted his weight and, in an astonishing display of devotion, raised his front legs and wrapped them around Marcus's shoulders, a canine embrace that left everyone in the room speechless. The veterinary staff stood transfixed as Max maintained his embrace, his paws draped over Marcus's shoulders, in a gesture so human-like it defied explanation. It wasn't just a random movement or muscle spasm. It was purposeful, tender, communicating what words never could. For nearly 30 seconds, the shepherd held the position, his muzzle resting against Marcus's neck as tears soaked into his fur. "I've never seen anything like this in 20 years of practice," Dr. Collins whispered to her assistant, discreetly wiping away her own tears. The moment was too sacred to interrupt, too profound to rush. When Max finally relaxed his grip, easing back onto the blanket, his breathing had become more labored, the effort clearly having cost him his remaining strength. Marcus knew they had reached the inevitable moment. With trembling hands, he nodded to Dr. Collins. "It's time," he said, his voice barely audible. "I won't let him suffer anymore." Dr. Collins approached with the syringe containing the sedative, her movements gentle and respectful. "This will help him relax first. He'll feel like he's drifting off to sleep." Marcus cradled Max's head in his lap as the medication was administered. He stroked the shepherd's ears, just the way Max had always loved, whispering reassurances as the tension gradually left the dog's body. Within minutes, Max's breathing deepened, his eyes growing heavy yet still fixed on Marcus's face. "Once he's fully sedated, I'll administer the final medication," Dr. Collins explained softly. "He won't feel any pain or distress." Outside the window, the spring sun emerged from behind a cloud, casting a warm golden light across the room. A butterfly, brilliant blue and seemingly out of season, landed momentarily on the windowsill before fluttering away. Later, Marcus would recall this detail with wonder, but in the moment, his entire world had narrowed to the beloved companion drifting away in his arms. Dr. Collins checked Max's reflexes, confirming he was deeply sedated and comfortable. She prepared the final injection that would stop his heart, ending his suffering once and for all. Marcus bent low, pressing his forehead against Max's. "Run free, buddy," he whispered. "No more pain where you're going." Just as Dr. Collins approached, with the syringe, Max's left ear twitched. Then, inexplicably, his eyes opened, not with the glazed look of sedation, but with sudden clarity. Before anyone could react, the German shepherd let out a soft woof that seemed impossibly alert, given the powerful sedative coursing through his system. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Max. It was impossible, medically impossible, for him to be alert after receiving the sedative dose appropriate for his weight. Yet there he was, lifting his head and looking around with growing awareness. Dr. Collins froze, the final syringe still in her hand, her medical training at odds with what she was witnessing. "This shouldn't be happening," she whispered, setting down the syringe and quickly retrieving her stethoscope. Pressing it to Max's chest, her eyes widened. His heart rate is stabilizing. Strengthening, actually. Marcus hardly dared breathe as Dr. Collins continued her examination, checking Max's gums, eyes, and reflexes with increasing bewilderment. The German shepherd remained focused, his eyes tracking every movement, a far cry from the semi-conscious state he should have been in. "I need to run more tests," Dr. Collins said, her voice regaining its professional edge despite her obvious confusion. "Right now, Marcus, this is unprecedented." The next hours passed in a blur of activity. Blood was drawn, ultrasounds performed, vitals monitored continuously. The veterinary hospital's staff moved with renewed urgency, their earlier solemnity replaced by focused determination and undisguised amazement. Through it all, Max remained alert, his condition seemingly improving by the hour despite the dire prognosis that had prompted this final visit. By late afternoon, Dr. Collins called Marcus into her office, her expression a complex mixture of confusion, excitement, and scientific caution. Spread across her desk were Max's latest test results, images from the morning ultrasound juxtaposed with ones taken just hours later. "I've consulted with 3 colleagues, including an oncologist." She began pushing the images toward Marcus. "The tumors we identified yesterday, they're shrinking, not just appearing smaller due to reduced inflammation, actually shrinking. His kidney function is improving too, though it's still compromised." Marcus stared at the images, trying to process what he was hearing. What does this mean? Is he going to be okay? Dr. Collins removed her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose. "Marcus, I've been a veterinarian for 18 years. I've never seen anything like this. Medically speaking, what we're witnessing shouldn't be possible. The only explanation I can offer is that we somehow misdiagnosed the condition, but even that doesn't explain the dramatic turnaround. She leaned forward, her voice lowering slightly. Some of my staff are calling it a miracle. I'm not prone to such terminology, but scientifically, I'm at a loss to explain it any other way. The following week was filled with cautious optimism as Max's condition continued to improve in ways that defied medical explanation. The tumors shrank day by day, his kidney function returned gradually to normal levels, and his energy slowly returned. Dr. Collins documented everything meticulously, knowing that Max's case would likely be studied by veterinary oncologists around the country. She had already received calls from specialists at 3 different universities, all eager to examine the German Shepherd who had essentially risen from death's door. Marcus spent every possible moment at the veterinary hospital, arriving before his shifts at the fire station and returning immediately after. News of Max's miraculous recovery spread quickly through Riverdale, bringing a steady stream of well-wishers. The local newspaper ran a front-page story titled, "The Hug That Healed, Riverdale's Miracle Dog," featuring a photograph of Marcus and Max sitting together in the hospital garden. 10 days after the remarkable turnaround, Dr. Collins finally agreed that Max could return home. Though still requiring medication and follow-up visits, the German Shepherd walked out of the hospital on his own 4 legs, something that would have been unimaginable just days earlier. "I still can't provide a scientific explanation," Dr. Collins admitted, as she handed Marcus a detailed care plan. "The oncologist is calling it spontaneous remission of unprecedented scale, but even that doesn't adequately describe what we've witnessed. Whatever happened that day, that moment when he embraced you, it triggered something beyond our medical understanding." Marcus's fire station colleagues had prepared a surprise welcome home celebration. They'd transformed his small backyard with decorations, a special cushioned bed for mice on the porch, and even a hand-painted banner that read, "Welcome Home, Miracle Max." Chief Ramirez presented Max with a custom firefighter bandana, officially reinstating him as the station's mascot. "You know," the chief said quietly to Marcus as they watched Max receiving gentle pets from the crew, "I've never been much for supernatural stuff, but what happened with Max? It makes you wonder if there's more out there than we understand. That bond between you two, it's something special." That night, for the first time in nearly 2 weeks, Marcus slept in his own bed with Max curled up in his usual spot at the foot, though thinner and still moving carefully. The German Shepherd's presence filled the home with a warmth that Marcus had feared was lost forever. As he drifted off to sleep, Marcus found himself wondering about the mysterious forces that had allowed this second chance. Was it love, some unknown biological mechanism, or something truly divine? 6 months later, on a crisp autumn morning, Marcus and Max stood at the summit of Eagle Ridge Trail, their favorite hiking spot that they'd visited countless times before Max's illness. The journey to this point had not been easy. Recovery had come with setbacks, days when Max's energy flagged, nights when pain resurfaced, and a frightening week when his kidney values temporarily spiked. But through it all, their bond had only strengthened, forged anew in the crucible of near loss. Max looked nothing like the dying dog from that fateful spring day. His coat had regained its luster, his eyes their bright alertness. Only a few small scars from the tests and IV lines served as physical reminders of his brush with death. At 8.5 years old, he showed occasional signs of aging, a slight stiffness after long naps, a touch more silver around his muzzle, but remained remarkably vibrant. Dr. Collins continued to monitor him closely, publishing a case study that had generated significant attention in veterinary circles. Researchers had proposed various theories for his recovery: misdiagnosis, an unusual immune response, or perhaps effects from the specific combination of medications he'd received. But none fully explained the dramatic turnaround that had occurred precisely when Max had embraced Marcus, a moment that had been witnessed by 4 different medical professionals. The case had even sparked interest beyond scientific communities. A documentary filmmaker had contacted Marcus about featuring Max's story in a project exploring the inexplicable connections between humans and animals. Letters arrived weekly from pet owners around the country, sharing their own stories of hope inspired by the German Shepherd who had defied medical odds. Standing on the mountain overlook, Marcus watched as Max explored the familiar terrain, nose twitching as he investigated the sense of wildlife that had passed through earlier. This simple joy, watching his companion alive and engaged with the world, never failed to fill Marcus with profound gratitude. "You know, sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night just to check that you're really there," Marcus confessed, kneeling to ruffle Max's fur as the dog returned to his side. "Whatever miracle happened that day, I'm grateful for every extra moment it's given us." Max responded by placing his paw on Marcus's arm, a gesture that now carried even deeper significance given their shared journey. Whether coincidence or cosmic intervention, their story had touched countless lives beyond their small town, reminding people of the mysterious power held in the bond between humans and their animal companions. As they began their descent back, down the trail, the setting sun cast long shadows through the trees. Marcus had always considered himself a practical man, skeptical of the unexplained, but Max's miracle had fundamentally altered his understanding of the world. Some bonds, he now believed, were powerful enough to alter fate itself, powerful enough perhaps to create miracles. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share it with someone who loves inspiring stories, and help us spread messages of courage, hope, and the incredible bonds we share with our four-legged family members.